Welcome back, everybody. You have just tuned in to the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast presented by 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh. And I apologize for not getting back with you last week. It just simply was one of those weeks where nothing seems to work, and it's WTF, as the kids say. But we are back this week, and the Steelers are coming off of a 17-10 loss in the home finale to the Buffalo Bills, and it was maybe a wake-up call of sorts. It certainly felt like it at times. Buffalo's a real solid team. I really don't honestly know how good any of these teams are, quite frankly, but good defense. We knew that coming in, and we're going to talk a whole lot about that. And then, of course, moving forward with the Jets and discuss that and all the parameters or the ramifications, I should say, surrounding the Steelers' pending playoff hopes. And as usual, to discuss all things Steelers with me is the pretzel-eating Ben Anderson, who is grabbing a little snack here while we get going. Ben, how are you tonight?
I can't eat any pretzels while we're recording.
Well, pretzels typically are one of those staples with a very nice adult beverage, which you typically have with you. But maybe you haven't cracked into that just yet.
No, I gotta go to the gym later.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we don't want to be sweating out alcohol at the gym. Yeah, we'll save that for the weekends.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So
I'll drink too much on Sunday. Don't you worry.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. Obviously, a disappointing loss. It could have really locked some things up for the Steelers. It wouldn't have solidified us.
Yeah, disappointing that's definitely a word I would use.
Well, let me, before you get going, and give me your impressions. I mean, did you kind of feel this coming at all?
Yeah, I had a really bad feeling, honestly. And
I did too.
I was fighting it all day. Yeah. I was like, no, you're just being paranoid. You're just. I actually had a bad feeling from about Saturday on.
I did too.
And yeah, I still wanted to win,
sure.
Really, really bad, so badly that I didn't manage my expectations well. And I mean, basically on Sundays, I do what most fans do. I go in and I drink, and I take a long pull from the bottle of unrealistic expectations, and I go in and I yell at the TV and throw shit and scream, and I kicked a fucking chair during the middle of the game. My friends were like, "Wow, that chair! Do you think it learned its lesson there, or what? You feeling okay there, Ben?" And
bad chair.
There were some moments there where I behaved very, very poorly. I kind of felt it coming, to answer your question. And, it's just a question. What we saw was a practice squad quarterback coming back down to earth against a very, very good defense. And basically what the Bills did was they came in and they said, we're going to stop the run. And we're going to dare you to throw over us. We're going to cover the short area because we have good linebackers.
Yeah. And
we're going to send a good pass rush. And we're going to pressure your guy. And we're going to dare him to hold on to the ball long enough to throw it over us. And he couldn't do it. And that's it. Basically, the Bills defense put it all on Duck, and Duck couldn't get it done because he's not good enough. Now, that said, there were some things that I feel like Randy Fichtner could have done differently. I'm not trying to say that I'm going to give him a total pass here.
Right.
But the execution was very, very poor. Very. From the offensive line not picking up blitzes and stunts, and from Hodges not finding open receivers. And there were receivers open. That fourth down.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Fichtner dialed up a perfect play, and it may have gone for a touchdown. Washington was so wide open. Yep. It was ridiculous how wide open he was. At minimum, it would have been 1st and goal. And he missed him. He just didn't even see him. I don't know how you missed that throw, man. I know you're only 6 feet tall, and the linemen are all taller than you, but you can't do that. You just can't do that. And it was things along those lines all day long that where guys were open and Duck was missing them. And there were some things that Finkner could have done to help him. I know you want to go over that later, so let's skip that.
Yeah. The play you're referring to there on fourth down that ended the game for all intents and purposes, other than a kneel down or two. But that too is just really symbolic, representative, whatever the term is, of a guy that is an undrafted free agent rookie quarterback who is thrust into the situation that he's in. He probably was panicking. It was late in the game. He knew what was at stake and just didn't even think to get through his progressions, and chucked it deep and hoped for something good. But if any of you have the NFL Game Pass, I highly suggest you go back and look at that play. You will see James Washington wide open going across the middle, it was very, very unfortunate that he didn't see him, but it is what it is. And you are crinkling really, really loud right now with those pretzels, man. Crinkling really
loud. I am?
Yes. It sounds like somebody's beating you with aluminum foil. There we go. Look at this. You get all these side bits going on. So was that one of the worst games you've seen from the offensive line, by the way? It seemed like we could not adjust to either what they were doing against the run or against the pass. They constantly had guys coming free. I thought it was just not a good day overall for the offensive line.
No, it was not. I'm not sure what the deal was. I can't figure it out, other than, I made a point today that a lot of the problems are rooted in the fact not just that the offensive line is or was drafted and was built to play for Ben's style, but also because Ben, as a longtime veteran, can identify blitzes and stunts before the snap, and he can change the protection at the line. I don't think Duck can do that, one.
Mm-hmm.
If he can, I doubt he's very good at it. And the same is probably true of Mason Rudolph. They're young quarterbacks. They don't have the experience level. They haven't seen enough things. And just doesn't work.
Well, and it wasn't only affecting the offensive line, but clearly you could see the running backs were struggling with blitz pickup as well. Completely being on the wrong side of the formation, not getting across the formation, just flat out getting beat on oncoming rushers. So it was just that type of day, and the Randy Fichtner stuff, and we talk about this every single week on this show about the difference between, coaching and execution. And there's always bits and pieces of each that represent either great success or great failure. And, we saw a lot of examples of that this week. And I go back to that wildcat call on, deep inside Buffalo territory before the half. And they admitted this week, James Conner admitted it, and several others did, that they really didn't work on that play this week because in due part to the lack of availability of Conner and Jalen Samuels. And it looked like a sloppy play. It looked like a high school team said, hey, let's throw this in real quick. I don't think they'll be ready for it. You'll work on it for 3 minutes. Okay, we're good. That's what it looked like to me. And, to me, that part of it, I go to Randy Fichtner and I say, Randy, come on, you can't put these guys in those situations right then and there. I understand they're professionals. I get it, but it's got to be better there. And, as far as helping Duck, it seemed like he got bogged down in doing a lot of the same things on first down and then on second down. And then, oh, gee, here we are, third and long. And it just, granted, again, Buffalo defense has been the best defense we've seen in quite some time. And we knew we were going to struggle. But it always seems to me there are a few other things you can do offensively. I don't think we utilized Deontay Johnson enough. I thought we could have gotten the ball in his hands a little bit more often, but again, credit Leslie Frazier and his defense. They did a really nice job against the Steelers. So, what did you see out of Fiegner that frustrated you besides what I mentioned?
Well, real quickly, Deontay Johnson did fumble.
He did.
He
did. Yeah.
And there really was no excuse for it. I mean, yes, Pouncey had a bad snap back to Connor. Connor recovered it. The ball was never fully secured into Johnson's belly, and he took off into the hole anyway.
Yeah.
That, to me, is just inexcusable. If you've got to slow down to make sure you secure the ball, you slow down to make sure you secure the ball.
Yeah, ball security, number one right there.
Yeah, exactly. That's football 101. That's not anything that he should be doing. He got ahead of himself. That's like being the receiver who catches the ball and is looking toward where he's going to run before he secures it.
Yeah.
You can't. You just don't do that. Okay. So again, that's one of those things I don't want to give the players a pass on.
Mm-hmm.
As well, there were several pre-snap penalties and or holds that were made by the offensive line that those kill you.
Yeah. Especially against good defenses. Yeah.
Yeah, and they weren't blocking very well for the run either. Again, it's a good defense. You're running against 8 and 9 man
fronts.
Excuse me. Yes, yeah. And initially they came out and they did okay.
Yeah.
Their first 6 runs went for 15 yards, 2 yards. They had 0 yards on one, but there was a penalty on Duck Hodges for illegal motion, which I still don't understand. You're supposed to set behind the center and then move over to the guard and then take off in motion.
I've actually seen this before.
Penalty. You've seen that before?
I have seen it before. Yes. What the rule is if you're the quarterback, okay, and you are under center, all right.
Yes.
Then when you go in motion, you have to get reset. You cannot continue in motion as we see players do all the time. Now, if he was in the shotgun or pistol, and had taken off into motion, then he would have been fine. Now, the one question I do not have the answer to is, what's the big difference? Why does it matter?
Right.
I don't know. There's got to be a reason for that, and I will effort to find that answer, because I remember as soon as he left under quarterback, I thought, okay, something's got to happen here. And then I saw the flag and I'm thinking, okay, he didn't get set. And, that leads me to a whole other discussion, which we'll do for another day. But
all right.
Remember, it used to be guys had to be set for like a full second. That doesn't happen anymore anyway.
Right.
But yeah, that's what
they decided that was a waste of time.
Yeah.
Long story short, okay, the first 5 runs that actually counted went for 21 yards, right? That's like 4 yards a click. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Then they proceeded to run it 5 more times for 0 yards each.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The run game was not working. Then James Conner breaks one off for 17, and then Buffalo tightens it up again, and it's -1, 3-5-2. At this point, they're down by 7. They're not running anymore.
No, I
don't really have a problem with the way the run game was utilized. Everybody's up in arms about the fact that they didn't run it more. They gave up on the run. It just seems like they gave up on the run. They didn't give up on the run. The run wasn't working, man.
Yeah.
2 of their carries, they had 15 carries for 47 yards total. 32 of those yards came on 2 carries. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
an incredibly poor average after that.
It's an incredibly poor average. And one of those carries went for a fumble. All right? So you're just having a really, really bad day against 8 and 9 guys in the box. You can't get past them. You can't do anything. And when you're throwing the ball, you're not getting a lot out of it, but at least you're getting 5 yards an attempt. So you're doing that. You're trying to. And then you get behind and you've got to throw. And, I mean, somebody pointed it out to me on Twitter this week. Basically, when you've got Duck Hodges behind center and you're down by 7, it's like being down 14. Okay, they're just not going to score that many touchdowns, and it puts even more pressure and it puts even more pressure on the offense to get something done. And I agree with that. Yes, they could have stuck with the run, maybe a little bit more here and there, but like I said, they went through a long stretch there where they got no yards at all, none. 5 rushing attempts in a row, 0 yards, nothing. That kills you. I mean, if running the ball puts you at 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, that's tough when you get a really young quarterback against a good D, and they know what you're going to do because it's 3rd down. Now they're sending everybody, and they're going to put pressure on you, and you get off the field. You don't have an opportunity to do anything. You can't extend drives that way.
No.
So what could they have done differently? Well, I believe that he could have spread that defense out a little bit. Okay. Could have done that. Could have widened their stances, widened their sets. He could have thrown easier high percentage throws, quick hitch passes, drags, crossers, screens.
Very little across the middle. Very little. I didn't understand that.
Design draw screens, even draw rush plays, because they were selling out hard on either run blitzes and or blitzes. So run a draw play. Let those guys fan around the outside and pop it up the middle. Granted, you're not going to get a lot of yards because those linebackers are good.
Yeah, fast.
But you're going to get to the second level. You're going to get positive yards, and you're going to give yourself an opportunity on 2nd and 3rd down to move the chains. Things like that weren't happening. Little tight end outlet passes, nothing. There was nothing like that. Nothing was happening. That was the kind of thing that drove me a little bit nuts. But the execution was so bad by the offensive players that I have a hard time giving them a pass. They just didn't get it done, man. And it wasn't just that the quarterback was young. It was guys that, I mean, the offensive line is supposed to be one of the best offensive lines in the league. They got their lunch money taken away from them. They got beaten up.
They did. They were absolutely beaten in the lunch line and left to lay there in a pool of spoiled milk. I mean, there were times guys were coming completely free, whether it was through the A gaps, whether it was off the edge. It was, and I go right back to what you were talking about. When you've got Ben Roethlisberger or a longtime veteran QB, they can pick up on a lot of things, especially as it relates to blitz pickup that these rookies just don't see, these young guys aren't seeing, and it makes a world of difference. There is no doubt in my mind. But I want to say that you're listening to the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast presented by 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh. And right now you can get the duck inspired shirt. It's just got a little rubber ducky on it with the number 6 in the middle. It's kind of a cool shirt. And every shirt you get from 26shirts.com is super comfortable anyway, and goes towards a fantastic cause. So please consider doing that and hop on the duck bandwagon. I mean, he's going to start again this week, but we'll get into that here shortly. Ben, was there anything possible the defense could have done better to give them a better shot in this game?
I thought the defense played outstanding.
Yeah, and that's the problem. That was my gut feeling all day, is that the defense is going to play well. The offense is just not going to muster enough. I think I had this game like 16-13, and it ended up 17-10. That's what I was afraid of, and it's exactly what happened. Our defense just couldn't do any more than what they had done. And I mean, Watt continues to have a spectacular year, and other guys had some big plays, and but what more can you ask of them?
I don't think there's a lot. Again, if your defense forces 2 turnovers, you should be able to muster more than 10 points.
You'd hope.
Yeah. Josh Allen, 13 of 25 for 139 yards, a TD and a pick. Hit a passer rating of 65.2. Yeah. I mean, they could have done a little bit more against the rush. But even that, I mean, it's not like they had a lot of yards going. I mean, what were the total yards for Buffalo?
Well, Singletary was around 80 late in the game,
87.
if I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, their total yards were 261.
Yeah.
To the Steelers, 229. The big difference was the turnovers. Steelers having 5 turnovers. That killed them.
Oh,
Absolutely killed them.
Yeah.
That and time of possession. I mean, but you can't really put that on the defense because it wasn't like they didn't force a lot of punts. They just, the offense wasn't carrying their part of the load, and they weren't good. They got exposed, guys. Our offense is not that good this year, and it sucks because we're accustomed, after the last several years to having a very good offense, and they're just not there. They're not afraid of the passing game.
No.
They're just basically going to say, yeah, beat us with your passing game. We don't believe you're very good at it. And the run game, when it's facing 8 and 9 man boxes, can't really compete. They can't do the things we saw them do last year and the year previous. So it is what it is right now. I hope they still make. Obviously, I hope they make the playoffs.
Oh, certainly.
I would like to see the young players in this team, and this is a very young team. I'd like to see the young players in this team get some playoff experience. I'd like them to be able to say, we started 0-3 and we came back and we made the playoffs, because that's a major accomplishment, and almost isn't.
No,
we almost made the playoffs. We were in a position to make the playoffs. Whatever. You didn't make it. You can hang your hat on having gotten back there, especially after a terrible start and losing all those players, and you still made it happen. You still did it. But my fear right now is in order to get to the playoffs, they're going to have to win both games, and that means beating the Ravens in Baltimore. And even without Lamar Jackson, I just don't know how possible that is or how likely.
Yeah, I am so focused right now on not even thinking about Baltimore, because I have concerns with this Jets team. Steelers.
They're good. They're 5-5 since their quarterback came back from mono. So
yeah, and they play hard. They play good defense. We have not traditionally played well in New York, for whatever reason. But be that as it may, what do you make of the decision to stay with Duck? Did you have any thoughts that he might go back to Rudy, or where are you with that decision?
I'm okay with it. Rudolph threw 4 picks against the Browns, and people have already seemingly forgotten that, or some people have. Rudolph fans have. He threw 4 picks against the Browns. He got another start, and he came out and he came out flat and looked bad against a bad defense in Cincinnati, and he got yanked. I mean, bottom line, that is what happened. And you can't really complain about them not putting Rudolph back in when he got as many chances as he did, and still was given one more start.
So we're looking at a really interesting situation then this week, because if Duck continues to struggle in the first half, and let's say we're down 10-3, something like that, Tomlin is going to have to make a similar decision. Do I stay with the guy that's struggling, or do I go with just a change, something that to change the offense? And, I think it's going to be a fascinating decision if it comes to that. Obviously, I do not wish it comes to that. I hope we're up 17-0 at the end of the first half, and we can just put it on cruise control and go from there. But I think it's going to be fascinating to see what he ultimately does if that becomes the case. Hodges strikes me as the type of guy that type of game doesn't sit well with him. I think he's going to come back. He's going to be pretty fiery. I think he's going to want to get back to winning and not letting his defense down and stuff like that. But the Jets just aren't going to open the door for him to do that. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see how that first half unravels on Sunday.
Yeah, we'll see. I hope that Mason prepares hard, but apparently he prepares hard every week, regardless.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm kind of hoping that Hodges plays better. This defense is not nearly as good as the one that they faced on Sunday,
and it's banged up too.
And it is a little banged up. I mean, you look at their injury report; it's like, wow.
Yeah, it
who's
was like
not hurt on this team.
half the roster.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Go ahead.
Well, I think, and then I wrote this today, and I as much as I knock James Conner for his lack of availability due to being dinged up a lot, I think he's the difference in these final two games. I think the offense lacks any sort of guy that can get through the line of scrimmage to pick up yards. It lacks the burst. He got it a couple of times, granted, just a couple of times, but I also felt they were limiting his touches a little bit. I really think he's the difference, not just running the ball, but also catching it out of the backfield and then blitz pickup. If he plays well these next 2 weeks, I think we have a real shot, because otherwise I think that offense goes back to being just very, very stagnant, kind of relying on the Benny Snell type thing, who, by the way, only got 2 carries, I believe. Is that what he had last week?
Yeah, he had 1 carry for 2 yards and 1 carry for -1 yard.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen people comparing him. Well, that's why he's going to replace James Conner, and it's like, stop, just stop.
Yeah,
that's not what's going to happen here.
There's a lot that Snell needs to improve on before he's a legitimate starter in this league. A lot.
Definitely, and I'm not going to go any further than that. But so to me, I think Connor is a huge piece to this, and obviously it'd be nice if you get Juju back, help out that receiving core a little bit. They did release Tevin Jones, who had a couple drops this week, and they moved Amara Darbo from the practice squad. He's a Michigan guy. I saw him a few times. He's a nice player, but this is amounts to a whole lot of nothing for me, so I wouldn't worry about it. But that's what I think. I think it's got to be Connor a little bit here that helps out. What was I going to say?
Well, Juju may come back.
Yeah, I mean, he was limited today, but that's better than not practicing. And
right.
Again,
I think they're trying to bring him back a little slower this time, because he came back and went full and re-injured, aggravated his injuries, whatever they were, and had to basically, he was done the rest of the week.
Yeah, and it's, I know you talk to people there in Pittsburgh too, and it just sounds like it's one of those things where it gets better and he does some work and it swells back up and becomes an issue. So, I mean, if you've been an athlete at all for any extended period in your life, you know that injuries vary in terms of their recovery time. Every guy is different, every injury is different, and it just seems that's kind of what he's dealing with right now. So, Vance McDonald, another one that I think would be huge to get back. He's still in the protocol as of at least yesterday, with Tomlin saying he wasn't sure, but as far as he knew, that was still the case. And I think that was a huge piece of it too on Sunday. It would have been nice to have him.
He went full today.
He did go full.
It's worth noting that he went full today, but he's still in the protocol. Okay. He's still in the protocol until he meets whatever baseline considerations he's got to meet. Hey, off the subject here, but just read on Twitter that the Jags fired Tom Coughlin, who was their executive VP of football operations. He was supposed to retire in January, and they fired him 2 weeks early. That is pretty cold, I gotta say.
Well, they, not to stay on it too long, but they got hit pretty hard by the NFLPA this week for some stuff. And
I saw that.
He's leaving anyway. What I know. Well, and I know how old school Coughlin is. I mean,
I do.
Yeah.
It's this actually is germane to our conversation, because I remember a couple of years ago when the Jags beat the Steelers twice, and all the Tomlin sucks, fire Tomlin people were going, that's what we need. We need to get Tom Coughlin and Doug Marrone to come in here and straighten things out in the Steelers. That's the problem. The Steelers players are getting away with too much crap. Yeah, well, this is Coughlin's routine. He goes into a place, he straightens everything out, he gets the ship running tight, and then people get pissed and his act runs out. I mean, basically, people get tired of it. People want to leave. They don't want to stick around. They can't retain players. People rebel.
Well, and look at him with the Giants. You know, they won those
Exactly.
2 Super Bowls, but
Exactly. And
the years
apparently
after, yeah.
when he won the Super Bowls with those guys, he had learned to compromise and he had dialed it back some. And it was because a group of leaders on that team came to him and said, "Look, we need you to get on the same page with us. We understand that we need to get on the same page with you, but you got to get to on the same page with us, because when guys have questions and they have doubts, we're the guys they come to.
Yeah.
And we can't stand you." So, we need you to get on the same page with us too. And they kind of worked it out, as a group. Well, I don't know that young players now so much do that. They just say, screw this. I don't want to be here. They pull crap like the Browns players pull.
Yep.
When they play in visiting stadiums, they run past the sideline and say, "Hey, trade for me. Come and get me." And that's not uncommon, man. I mean, Antonio Brown, look at the crap that he's pulled.
Oh, my God.
All I'm saying is this is the reality of the NFL today. And I know we got off on a tangent there, and we're not talking about the Steelers and the Bills right now, but that is the reality of the NFL today. And guys like Tom Coughlin are dinosaurs. They are done. And I'm sure at the end of the season, Marrone is getting fired too.
Yep. It is a different world. And I know there are a lot of folks out there, and you and I talk to them literally every day on Twitter, that are our age and older, and they appreciate the disciplinarians. They appreciate those Tom Coughlin types. But the reality is, it's a new world in pro sports, and like it or not, that's what it is. And the dinosaurs are going the way of the dinosaurs, and they're being made extinct. And this is another example of it. I wanted to obviously touch on the fact that the Steelers had 5 guys selected to the Pro Bowl. And look, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because simply it's a popularity contest quite often. But for a guy like TJ Watt, who's going and very well could be going as the Defensive Player of the Year as well. Great honor for him. Cam Hayward, also very deserving. Minka Fitzpatrick, I don't think we need to say a word about his deserving, and then you had David DeCastro and Marquise Pouncey. And, has Pouncey had a stellar Marquise Pouncey type year? I don't think so.
Nope.
And is he going on name recognition? Probably. I did find it a bit laughable, Pro Football Focus, when they have him rated like 34th and there's only 32 starting centers. That's a bit laughable, but he has not had a great year. And DeCastro has been pretty solid. I'm not going to say too much negative about him. But yeah, anyway, they're not going to care what we say. They get a free trip and get to go enjoy time together and all that stuff. But want to make sure we did mention that for sure. Did you think Bud Dupree deserved a Pro Bowl?
No. I looked at it. I mean,
yeah,
he's having a good year. I'm not taking anything away from him. All I'm saying is I looked at the guys that were chosen, and I didn't see where Bud should have beaten any of them, frankly. And so, he's still not in Von Miller's class. Okay, he's just not. For example, he's not in TJ Watt's class. He's having a nice season. It's great. I'm glad that people are fired up and they're appreciative of his performance. But I don't think he deserves a Pro Bowl nod. Now, that said, he'll probably end up going because nobody wants to go to the damn Pro Bowl anymore. No, so he'll be an alternate and he'll end up going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the state of the Pro Bowl now. I mean, it's just become laughable. These guys, well, I don't think I've got a hangnail on my left pinky toe. I'm not going to be able to make it. So, the third stringer at Denver ends up going. The Steelers go into New York this week, Ben, and we talked a little bit about their defense, the fact that it's solid, not great, certainly not what we saw last week. It's banged up on the corners and in some other areas as well. But offensively, the Jets have been playing better. Obviously, Bell has been a little bit better. I think he had 80 or 90 total yards last week. Sam Darnold is playing a little bit better each week. What do you expect to see coming up on Sunday?
Well, Quinnen Williams and Jamal Adams are back. Uh,
Yeah.
we're gonna see a pretty decent defense, and our offense is not all that decent. I don't think that their offense is very good. I
Right.
do expect to see a motivated Le'Veon Bell,
Oh yeah.
who's going to try and make the Steelers look bad and regret everything. Yeah, regret offering him more money than he's making now. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I don't see him having a big game. I
I
just
don't
don't see
either.
it. And I'm not really that afraid of Darnold. I think he's better than he was last season, but that doesn't make him a good starter at this point. So, probably a close game, a grind him out kind of a
Oh
game.
yeah.
Um, I'm not super concerned about it, but I'm also not like counting it as a win. Let's put it that way.
Oh no, not at all. And I do think Darnold will give up turnovers. I think he's apt to put the ball on the ground, if I'm not mistaken, from time to time, and he will
Yeah.
also he will throw the ball into places that he shouldn't throw the ball. And I am hopeful that that's what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if Bell scored a touchdown or something, maybe when they got down in the red zone or something. But I don't anticipate him having a huge game. We've done pretty well against backs this year for the most part, limiting their big plays. So I'm not overly concerned with that. Of course, the Steelers can make this really, really easy if they win this week and win next week at Baltimore. They're in the playoffs. There are other scenarios where if they win one and then they got the right combination of losses with Tennessee and Houston, that could also be a way to get in as well. But I know Mike Tomlin wants to take care of business, and I do go back to something you said earlier that this was an 0-3, a 1-4 team. And I think the only way that this team gets any sort of positive history attached to it is if they do make the postseason, because nobody's really going to care if they finish 8-8. It'll be a nice accomplishment coming back from that, but nobody's really going to care. They're going to want to see a playoff spot, especially since they've had it locked up really for the last several weeks. And we know what happened last year too. We kind of messed that up too with a decent lead over the
Yeah,
Ravens
they
at the end of the
never
year.
had it locked up. I never
Well,
felt that.
I mean, we've been in position to,
I mean,
we're in the
they've been
sixth
in a
spot for a
position,
while. Yeah.
currently the sixth seed for several weeks. That doesn't mean
Yep.
dick. Until you actually finish the season, until the fat lady sings, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, there were guys that were currently the sixth seed in week 8 that now are out of the picture entirely. So who
Right.
cares?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm looking at it strictly as from the fan perspective, because as well as I do, that's what people are going to harp on.
I get it, but I
agree
honestly, I mean, if that's what you thought, then you were mistaken, and that's on
you're
you.
not paying attention. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this week into New York, and again, closing out in Baltimore. And unless you've got anything else to add, we can wrap things up here on the show this week.
Just again, I want to emphasize that while I'm not like a huge Randy Fichtner fan, Randy's not the only problem on the offense right now. In fact, he's not even the biggest one, in my opinion. The players have got to get their shit together. And until they do, we're going to continue seeing things like this.
Yeah.
Fans tend to want to blame coaches every time. And it's very short-sighted. I don't know how else to put that. And then when you go back and you watch games and you watch film and you see opportunities that were missed, and as a guy like me who does that, it's incredibly frustrating. Yes, there are things that Fichtner could do better. Heck, there are things that Mike Tomlin and Keith Butler could do better with the defense. But that defense is playing outstanding football right now. And it's little stuff. It's nitpicky. But I'm sure that they're doing that nitpicking themselves too. So I'm encouraged by that.
Yeah.
That's really it. I want the fans to hold the players accountable, not just to point at the coaches. That to me just doesn't make any sense.
I agree with you. You got to be able to see the big picture, and I don't get any advertising money for saying that you should really get NFL Game Pass, because you'll be able to see exactly what you should. You can see exactly what Ben's talking about when you sit there and you harp on Fiechner, as I do quite often. But when you see a play that is dialed up, that is a great play, and it just isn't executed properly, you have to be able to learn when to say, you know what, that's not on the coach, that's on the players. They didn't get it done. Okay, now I understand it. And so again, I don't get any money from that, unless you want to send me some. That's fine. But we're gonna get out of here for the show. And again, thanks to 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh. And I know Mr. Del Reed is very happy.
I'm sure he
Bills
is.
Mafia
Bastard.
knocking us off, but I won't let it stop me from liking him. He's a swell fellow. So anyway, for Ben, this is Steel Dad signing off on the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast. And hey, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.